Hello, what's going on everyone? And in this video, I basically want to show you guys how you can integrate multiple VTU APIs into a single web application. And we're going to build that from the scratch, okay? We'll do that from the ground up. And one of the reasons why I'm actually doing this is because there are some days when people want to actually get some data or something like airtime or even utility bills from a particular website. And then they discover that that particular website does not actually have data or airtime or any product to actually sell to them at that particular point. And maybe as a result of the API vendor that particular website is actually using, maybe their server is down or they do not even actually have data or airtime or even utility bills to disburse to their resellers at that particular point in time. So in that kind of a situation, you are probably going to stay out of business during such a time. And instead of actually allowing yourself to stay out of business, you can integrate a different API vendor so that if API vendor A isn't actually available, you can switch to a VTU API vendor 2 so that you can continue serving your customers with whatever products that you are selling on your website. Okay, so that's just basically what the reason why I'm actually trying to build this, so just to eliminate that downtime. And if this particular product that we're actually going to build right now is actually familiar to you, and maybe you took our premium VTU script building, this is just basically a part of that particular script that I've actually taken, and then I'm building it for the community right here. Okay, so for those of you who may also want to maybe purchase my premium VTU script that is actually still ongoing, you can just maybe send me a message. You can find my phone number and even my email within this particular screen right here, and I can actually add you to that particular script building. It's actually not free, guys, so do not come in and then expect me to actually offer you that for free. So without wasting more time, I want us to test this application right now. And what happens is that I have a particular API switched on right now. So this is going to serve like the index of my web page, the landing page, and people can actually hit on a buy data or buy airtime, whatever product that could be, and then it's going to take them to the page that has the data available at that particular moment in time. So if I hit on buy data right now, you see that it takes me to a page. And I want you to take a look at the URL right here. You see that I'm basically going to where it's actually called the glad tidings _ page. And that is because the glad tidings API right now is actually switched on. That is why I'm able to be redirected to this particular page. Okay. And I'm going to show you something right now. I want to copy this page now, and I want to go to a different tab, and I want to paste that right now. What I want to do is, if I go back to, I want to go to the admin of this, and I do not have a direct link to it right here because you wouldn't actually do that. This is just like the admin part of your website. So this part should actually be locked, guys. So if you open this up right now, you're going to see that there is a control panel where you can actually either enable or disable a particular API vendor. So in my own case, if you take a look in here, you see that this is glad tidings, right? And then you see that the status is actually set to enable. Okay, so I'm using two data API right here. I'm going to be using glad tidings data hub, and also I'm going to be using Buffia sub right here. Okay, so currently Buffia sub is disabled. You see that right there? It's actually disabled, and that is why it was able to redirect to this particular one. All right, when I just hit on that particular home page. So if I go back right now, and if I hit on buy data, it redirects me to that particular page right here. All right. And then in the situation, let's say I disable glad tidings, let me disable that. If I hit on disable, you see that the status has been disabled, right? And then I will try to basically enable this Buffia sub. So if I enable this right now, you see the status is not enabled. Then if I hit on the home page right here, we see that if I hit on the home page and then hit on buy data, it tries to redirect me to a page called the Buffia sub _ page.php. So this is how that is. So you can use this page to control the page that it's basically going to redirect people to. Okay, so this is assumed that Buffia sub at this particular point in time, you have data. That's why it was able to switch me to this particular place. And if you want to display the name of the page or the API that you're actually getting the data from, you can do that. Okay, but I think it's not actually necessary. They don't have to know where you are actually getting your API, where you are basically getting your products from. Okay, so but basically you can just be using the URL this way. It could be the same thing. You can use the same page to actually maybe switch the API connection like that. Okay, but I did it in such a way that I try to make it simple enough, just create different pages for them. And then another instance I want to show you, right? Let's say that all of these things are actually disabled. Let's say glad tidings do not actually have data, and then Buffia sub do not actually have data to set to us right now. So I'm going to set the two of them to disable. So the status of the glad tidings is disabled, and then the status of a Buffia sub is disabled. So if I hit this particular endpoint, right here. So this is the home page. If I go ahead and hit on buy, you see that it takes me to the error page telling me that no products available. All right, so you can also add this as one of the things that you can actually achieve within this particular video that we're basically creating right now, right? So that is just that. All right, so I'm basically thinking of anything else that I need to show you guys. So at this point, I've disabled everything and it's redirected to this error page. Then in a situation where we have the two of them enabled, so I'm going to enable glad tidings right now and also enable both yourself, and everything is actually on right now. So if I go back to the index page and I want to hit in here, you see that it redirects to glad tidings, and the reason for that is because I set priorities for it. So if I go to my table right here, switch API, this is my database name and this is the table name. So the priority right here, you see that glad tidings API right here, glad tidings data is actually number one right there. Okay, then we'll have this second one right here. So what else do I need to show you guys? Let's test the application anyway. And right now we're basically going to test with that of the glad tidings page for now. So let's put our phone number in here, and then we want to basically choose Airtel because I want to receive that data. All right, so we can basically go ahead after filling the form and hit on submit. And I don't know if I have up to 14 naira in that place. Maybe if we don't, we're actually going to top up some money. But let me just hit on submit first of all and see what is going to happen. And I think I do have my phone mirrored right here. Okay, so if we could receive a message that was actually successful, we could receive a message right here showing that. And as you guys can see, I think I've actually received a message up here. So I want to open the message up. So if you take a look at that, you're going to see that you have received a 300 megabytes of data from Royal Kingdom Realms Limited, valid to that particular date that we have right there. Okay, so if we go back to our transaction page, you see that that was successfully redirected to the success page right here. And I'm not going to actually bother myself why this particular error actually shows up right here, or should I even like debug that? Let me go ahead and then debug this, guys. But in the version that we're basically going to build, we should be able to actually work on this so that we wouldn't actually see such an error in our code. Okay, but that's just basically how that works. It works in just the way that it redirects to this particular page, and I think I have sessions set on this particular page where we can actually fetch all the details for this particular transaction. So let me debug that off camera and then come back to you guys. All right, so I think nothing actually spoils if you guys actually watch me try to re-edit that. Okay, so I'm just like fetching all of these things. Before now it was just like, if I go back, you see this is how they were. Okay, I was basically fetching them as array. Okay, but I sent them to this particular page as objects. So it's just because I did not actually test it up to this point. Then that's just simply because I'm overconfident with the fact that the code is actually going to work. Okay, so and I'm actually sorry about that. We don't have to be all that so confident with our code. We need to like thoroughly test before we let that out. Okay, so if we save this now, I'm using arrows right now because they serve as an object. If I go back and refresh that page, I should be able to get the result just back. If I try, let me try this one more time. I don't know whether the money is still remaining, so let's hit on submit. And if it's still remaining, it should just be able to redirect just fine. All right, so it's redirects now just fine. So this is the summary of the transaction that I've just gone through. And if you check our page where you see that the second one has actually come in, so we can open that up and then be able to still read it. So we do have like two messages in here right now that look just similar to what we had earlier. So that's just that, guys. So just basically how you can get your stuff. So this is like a receipt of the transaction that I just gone through. So you can go back from this particular place to this particular interface, and that is just that, guys. So I think the next one we want to test is going to be for that of the buffer sub, even though we don't even have to bother ourselves about that. But let's just try to do that right now. So I want to disable glad tidings data and then enable that of the buffer sub, right? So buffer sub is on right now. So on this particular page, if I go back to the index page and we hit on buy data, and I hope that you guys kind of understand what I'm actually getting at. So what I'm basically doing with this is if we have issues with this, we can switch this particular one on, and then our website will be using that particular API that is on to disburse whatever product that people are actually buying from our website. Okay, so that's why I'm just basically doing this. So you see that it redressed to that of the buffer sub, and I have filled the form out. So if I hit on submit, I think this one is actually going to cost me 15 naira. So let's do that, and we could also get some errors on this particular one based on the redirect issues or things of that nature, but that would just be fine. And I want to open my phone up again in case we actually got that. I want to make sure that we're able to, and right here we haven't actually gotten anything yet, but if we check in here, okay, okay, their service is actually currently down, guys. So take a look at that, and that even makes it a lot more perfect, guys. So we can basically go in here and then switch to glad tidings to be using only glad tidings. So their service is actually down. Look at status right here, is set to fail, and then the message says service is currently down or restricted for this account. Kindly check and then try again, which is not something that I have the time to actually do right now. Okay, but basically I believe that once I show you guys how to switch between these APIs, and that's just basically what you guys are actually gonna need. You may not actually need me to integrate that of the Bofia sub anyway, but then if you have enough time, we could do that. But this is just basically how that is. So assuming we got a success, you should have redirected to the success page for that of the Bofia sub, and we could actually print our receipt from that particular place. But for now, we're not gonna like overboard ourselves with this because their service is actually down right now. So what I want us to do right now is to start writing some lines of code to see how we can actually bring this kind of application together, guys. Okay, so let's dive right in. Right now, to start off, we can just go to our drive, which is right here. I want to open that up, and I basically want to go to the location of my server, which is in my HD docs right here. So you want to go to XAMPP, then HD docs, and I want to go ahead and create a new folder for what you want to build right now. Okay, so I'm going to just basically call this, I think I don't have a folder called a switch, so I'm going to just basically call this switch, and that should be the folder name, and I want to open that up with our Visual Studio Code. So if I right click on that and hit on show more options, I want to open that up with my Visual Studio Code, and that's just basically going to open this up for us, and then we'll have nothing in this particular directory right now. And I want to go ahead because I would like to start with that of the what is it called, the admin. So I want to create a new folder inside of this, and just call that admin like that, and then open that up. And then within this admin right now, I want to create a file which I'm going to basically just call index.php. And that's just basically what we'll have in there. And what I want to do, first of all, let me throw in my HTML in here. So I'm going to just create a boilerplate for our HTML into this particular page right now. And what I want to basically do is to just say something like, I'm going to change this to admin API, and then within the body right here, I just want to bring in, let me create a div right here. Let's just call div, and we want to give that a class of container. This is going to be container, and let's close that down here. And I'm basically going to actually, let me leave this empty for now, but I'm going to actually populate this at a later time with a form, and then let's just save this. However, I want us to move straight to the obviously I want to close this out right now. So let's go to, this is going to be switch. That's a new folder that we're working on, and this is just basically how it will look right now. So we have admin folder, a subfolder inside of it. So I want to also, let me close out this particular one also, and let's focus on our database for now. So what I want to do with the database right now is that I want to go ahead and create a new database, which if I hit in here, it's going to open all this interface for me. So let's create our database right here. I'm going to just call this multi API. Let's call that multi underscore API like that, and then hit on where it says create, and that should basically create. So look at it right here. So we can create our what is it called, our tables inside of this particular place right now. So we could call this something like API APIs like that, because we're going to basically save APIs into that particular place. And then we're going to need, we're going to basically need like 6 rows. Okay, so if I hit change this to 6, and then I want to go ahead and click on where it says go, and it's going to bring up this page. And the first one is going to be the ID, which is going to be an integer, and we can set that to 11 max character. And then I want to check this to set that to primary key, and then auto increment. So let's save that. And then down here, the next one we're going to just basically bring up is going to be the name. Okay, so let's say that the name of this particular API is basically going to be, this is going to be Varka, so we'll change this to Varka. All right, so if we set that to Varka, we can go ahead within this place, and then maybe this is going to be something like 50. Okay, and the next one is actually going to be that of the API underscore URL, and then we can set this to this is still going to be Varka, guys. So set that to Varka, and you can go ahead and then maybe this is going to be 255, set that to max. And then the next one is actually going to be the API key or the status. Let's first of all set the status right here. So this is going to be status, and based on the status right here, what I'm going to do with the status is that I'm going to just basically set that to enum. So I'm going to just do enum right here. So let's look for enum, and if we set that to enum right here, we can, from this particular place, if we hit on where it says set values right here, so we're going to just set that to 2 values. This is going to be enabled, and the next one is actually going to be disabled. Okay, we have enabled and then disabled, and then we can go ahead and hit on go, and that's actually going to get inputted into that place for us. So the next one that we want to work on, so let's set the priority right here. So this is going to be priority, and we can set the priority to actually be integer, and then based on the max character here, we can set that to 11. And after that, I think that the last one is actually going to be the API key. So we'll do API underscore key right here, and we can go ahead and set that to varchar for now. So this is going to be varchar, and then we can go ahead and set that to maybe maximum, so 255 or so. That should be fine. If you want to add something like date, you can do that, but what I'm going to do right now is just go ahead and then save the changes right here. And when I have this is our table right now. Now that we'll have this in our table, we can actually go to our development environment and then see how is it that we can actually fetch the things that we have on that particular place. However, I think we need to insert some data into this place so that we don't have to like manually try to, programmatically try to do that. So if we go to where it says insert right here, we want to go ahead and fill out this form with the details that we have. Okay, so the first one is going to be the glad tidings API, right? So I'm going to just do glad. So we'll have glad tidings right there. The API URL, we want to get that from the internet. So let's go to, this is going to be glad tidings API hub. All right, guys. So I do have that opened right here. So this is glad tidings API hub, right? So in the last videos, I think we used the glad tidings API data, but this time around, I think they have actually moved their API to this particular section. Okay, so you need to make sure that you update your script to this particular one right now, which is actually called a glad tidings API hub.com. That's where you get their data right now, and some other utilities that they basically sell. So I want to log in right now, guys. All right, guys. So I'm signed into the glad tidings API hub right now, and I'm gonna just basically, this is my referral link. If you want to use that, that's fine. Okay, so you can use Benkina as the referral name, but I'm basically going to put this particular referral link in the description box below. And what we basically want to copy from this page is quite a few things, So if I scroll down, I want to go to where it says API right here, right? And I think the first thing I need is going to just basically be, let's go to the documentation right here. If you scroll to the top, you see where they say API documentation. And that's just basically going to bring us to this section of their application. And then what we want is to integrate the data part of it. So I want to hit on data, and I'm going to need this particular URL, guys. So if I go back in here and where they say API URL, I want to go ahead and paste that right there. Okay, so and then that's just that on that particular line. And the status right here, we can actually neither set it to enabled or disabled, but for now, but maybe at a later time, we're going to do that within our coding environment, guys. So as for the priority, I think I should set this one to 1. Or let us even also set this one. I want to set that to enabled. And then the API key right here. So if we go back to our glad tidings, I want to go back one more time. This is going to need this particular token. So I want to copy this, and do try to use your own. Do not use mine, guys. So feel free to use your own so that you can experience everything at first hand, So if I go back to this interface, I want to go ahead and I paste that API, that particular token right here. All right, so this is the API key, guys, and then we should do the same thing for that of the boss, where what is it called, Bofia sub down here. And to do that, I want to open a new tab and then do bofiasub.com. All right, guys, so I'm logged on to my Bofia sub account right now, and what I want to copy in this page is just quite a few things, guys. So if we go to this particular site, I want to scroll a little bit down, and we do have this is going to be the API documentation. I want to open that up, and I want to just copy my token, the API token right here. So if I copy that and then go back to this place and where it says the API key right here, I want to go ahead and paste that right there. And as for priority, I want to set that to 2. For enum, I want to set that to disabled. Then the API URL. First of all, let me enter the name right here. This is going to be, I want to just do Bofia sub as the name right there. Bofia sub right there. Am I correct with the spelling? No, I think it should be Bofia. So let's try to make sure that is actually correct. Okay. All right. Sorry about this. So we do have that right now. I think the only thing left right here is the API URL, right? So if we go back to Bofia sub, and I want to go to, I would like to grab onto the data. Let's go to buy data right here. And that's not it, guys. That's not basically what I'm looking for. So let's go back to the developer API. I believe we should be able to find that within the developer API. So if we scroll down, you should be able to say where this says check how to integrate data. I want to click on check how to integrate data right here. And if you click on it, you can scroll down If you scroll down, you should be able to see this interface right here. And what I'm basically looking for is the API URL. So let me just use the arrow to scroll for now. That's actually what I was looking for. But instead of wasting so much time, I think we can actually click on that. I copy that URL from here. Okay, and then the same thing applies to maybe if you want to get the how they integrate their airtime. If you hit on it and then scroll down, you should still be able to find that within the source code right here. Look at this one right here. The difference is just airtime right here if you want to integrate the airtime part of it. So if we go back to our database and I want to go ahead and then paste that URL right here, and I think that just that, guys. So that should just be that. I hope that every other thing is actually in place, and yeah, so that should be it, guys. So if we scroll down and we want to go ahead and hit on where it says something like go right here, that is so that. So let's hit on this, and I think everything has been saved. So if we go to structure, a browse, you should be able to see the two things right there. Okay, so we have everything we need now. So let's go back to our development environment and then see what we can do. And for that, if we get in here right now, I want to use PHP up here. So I'm gonna just do, if I throw in my PHP tag right here, I'm gonna close it in here. And what I basically want to do is to just find my way to basically, first of all, I want to like fetch the API. Okay, those things that we just inserted into the database just now, I want to be able to fetch that. And to do it is really very simple. What we want to do, I think first of all, we need to connect. And well, I think I basically need a folder first. So let's create a folder that will basically are gonna call something like includes. So this is gonna be includes. I don't know why that is kind of getting created within this particular interface. So I would like to really move that outside of that place. Okay, so I want that to be outside. So what I want to do is to, if I open this up, I want to create a new file which I'm going to be just basically call it db.php, and I open that up, and I'm going to write some lines of a code for that of our db right here. And to do that is really very simple. So for us to basically connect to our PHP, our server right now, I'm going to just throw in my PHP tags right here. This is going to be PHP, and at first I'm going to create a variable that I'm going to just call DSN. So this is going to be DSN, and we're going to go ahead and set that to be equal to, this is going to be my SQL. Then we're going to just do colon, and then we'll say host. Then set that to be equal to, basically this is going to be localhost. So this is going to be localhost, and we're going to introduce a semicolon, and then go ahead and just do DB name, and we'll go ahead and then set that to the database name that we use, which is actually called a switch. So this is going to be called a switch like that, and we can go ahead and then terminate this particular line. So down here we can go ahead and then let's say we'll bring in the username. So this is going to be user underscore, or let's just basically just say username as a variable, and you can set that to be equal to root, where you can actually set your own to whatever username you're using on your server. And for the password, I do not actually have a password, so I'm going to just send that to empty strings right there. Okay, so this could be single quote or double quote, whichever one you prefer, and that is just that on that line. So the next thing is to create, and just say something like create a PDO instance, and to do that I'm going to just use a try and catch right here. So this is going to be try, and down here let's just do catch like that, and then within this try block I want to basically go ahead and then if I do PDO right here, so this is going to be PDO, and I will go ahead and set that to new PDO right like that, and then we're going to just within this particular place we want to take the variable DSN right here, or data source right there, so put it in here, and then the next thing we want to do is to capture our username. So this is going to be username, put it right here, and finally I think we need to capture our password. So let's capture our password right here, copy that and paste right there, and that is just that on that particular line. So the next thing I want to do is to basically set the attributes. Okay, so to do that we're going to just do PDO, and I'm going to just use arrow right here, and we're going to just say set attributes, and we want to go ahead and then just do PDO and double colon, and this is going to be ATTR like that for attributes, and we're going to just do ERR underscore, not really underscore, ERR mode, and we can introduce a command and do PDO, and we want to just basically set that to PDO exception, or an error mode exception. Okay, so this is going to be ERR mode and underscore. I think I made a mistake right here, so I wasn't actually supposed to add attr right here. So this is just basically going to be ERR mode underscore exception. So this is going to be exception. You can just basically connect however you normally go with your own connection. Okay, so let's make sure we type this correctly, guys. So this is exception, and we can go ahead and then terminate this line. And then within the catch right here, I think this catch is actually going to have some parentheses in here because I want to check for the PDO exception right here. So this is going to be PDO exception, and I want to use E as a parameter that I want to use down here. So I'm going to just do die, use a die function in there, and we can just say something like a connection failed. And we can go ahead and then to provide more information about the connection that failed. We can just use the E parameter up there by just doing E like this, and then we can use our arrow and then say something like get message like that. And of course, this is just how it's basically going to be. So then we'll go ahead and then terminate this line. Okay, so if we save the changes right here, what we basically want to do is that we want to include this particular file to the index that is in that of our admin. Okay, so to do that is very, very simple. We can just use include right here. So I'm going to just do includes, maybe include once, whichever one you want to use. That's just fine. And basically want to go to that particular folder called the includes, right? So this is going to be includes / and it's actually called the db.php. That's going to be php right there. And we can terminate this line, and notice that this particular file is outside of this particular folder, right? So because if we check the structure right here, I think I closed that, but if we go to, let me just try to open that up right now. Yeah, this. And this is switch. Open that up. You notice that this index is actually not within the same folder as that of the admin right here. So in order for us to reference to this db right here, what we need to do is should basically do // like that to be able to reference to that. All right, so that's just basically how that can actually connect to that particular interface. So if we go to in here and we'll go to our admin, and we'll have a connection field unknown database switch. And what did we even call our database name? I think we'll call that multi API. So we made a mistake right there. So let's go back to here and let's change the name to, where is it? So right here we call that multi API like that. And let's save that. Is that correct now? And if we go back and then if we refresh now, we should be able to have the connection work just fine. So we do not have any errors right here. So that shows that we have successfully connected to that particular database. And the next thing we want to do, I want to close out this and then focus my attention on the index that is actually located in that of the admin right here. Okay, so that's the index I'm working on right now. And what I want to do is basically fetch the current API. So to do that, let me just put a comment and just say fetch the current API. So that's fetch the current API right there as a comment. And then down there, I want to create a variable that I'm going to just call APIs. And I want to use the opportunity if I have access to my PDO, so I can do PDO right here. And then with an arrow, we can go ahead and then just do query. So this is going to be query. And then within the query, what do we basically want to do? I want to select all from the what is it called, the database, the table that we have on that particular database, which in our own case is actually called APIs. So let's go back in here and just do APIs like that, and we can just do order if we want to. We'll just do order by, let's say, priority. I think we'll have priority right there. Okay, we're going to order that by priority and then send that on ascending order. Okay, so that's just basically that right there. So the next thing I want to do right now is I'm going to basically create a form down here, which I'm going to use to be able to toggle the content of that particular form or that particular table. And to do that is very, very simple. Let's go ahead and then create a form within this particular page right now. So right before the form, let's just go ahead and just do H2 right here. This is going to be H2, and we can go ahead and just say something like API like that, and we can close out the H2. And after that, within this place where we want to build a form, so let's go ahead and do that right now. So this is going to be, I'm going to first of all create a div that I'm going to just give that a class, and let's say that the class name is basically going to be API item. So that's API item. And then the next thing we want to do So let's first of all close that div down here. So this is going to be div, and we'll have that basically closed down here. Then I think it's now time for me to build my form. So I'm going to just do form right there, and I'm going to just do the method, and let's go ahead and set that to something like post. This is going to be post, and that's just that. So we have that right there. And then the next thing I want to do is just do the form right here. So because we want to close out the form, and that is just that on that particular line. So within this particular form now, we'll basically I want to create an input. So this is going to be input, and let's say the type of the input to be equal to, this is basically going to be hidden, guys. So I'm going to just set that to hidden. So that's going to be a hidden input right here, which will basically, that's just basically going to be the that of the API ID. Okay, so we haven't actually fetched that yet, but it's going to come in there, and then we're going to just hide it within that particular place. So the next thing is to give you a name, and the name is just basically going to be API underscore. So let's make sure we do underscore ID right here, and that is just that on that. And then the next thing I want to do is to just set a value, and let's go ahead and set the value to whatever ID that could actually be. Of course, I'm going to bring this in at a later time. For now, I'm going to just leave it as it is. Okay, so that's just that. And with the next line that we want to basically work on right now is going to be the buttons that we are going to basically click on to be able to toggle those things. And I want to put that in a div. So this is going to be div, and I can basically go ahead and then give that a class and set that to be equal to buttons. And let's go ahead and then close that particular div right there. So within this particular div ID, the buttons ID right here, what is it called, div right here. So we want to basically go ahead and then bring into the two buttons. So the first button, I want to just create that right now. This is going to be a type. So let's just set the type to something like submit. So let's go ahead and let's set that to something like submit, and the name is actually going to be set to something like status. So this is going to be status or status, whatever I want to call that. And then the value that we want people to actually see when they get into that particular place, or the admin to actually see, is going to be something like enabled. So I'm going to just do let's make that lowercase letter enabled. And for the text that we want people to basically see, I want to close this right here. Just say this is going to be enabled, and then we can basically close the button right here. So this is going to be button, and that is just that on that line. So of course we're going to basically have like two buttons, right? So I want to copy this and then duplicate that, and then for the value right here, instead of using enable, we can just go ahead and then do something like disable. So this is going to be disabled, and we should change this to disabled, just like that. All right, so that's just basically what that is for us right now. However, if we go to the top right here, I want to go ahead and then see if we can actually capture what is actually within the form if someone ever clicks on any of those buttons that we have down there. All right, so within here, let's deal with the form right here. So I'm going to just do if, and what I basically want to check is if it's actually under a post method. So I'm going to just do if $_, and let's say that within the server right here, we're going to just do request underscore method. And if it is actually, let's say basically this is actually going to be exactly equal to a post request, and what we basically want to do, want to go ahead and maybe echo out a message right here. Okay, so I'm going to just there will be no even any need for us to basically echo out anything in here. I think what we basically want to do is to go ahead and then capture the status and then the API. So I want to do API right here. So this is going to be API underscore ID, and to capture that, we can just do, this is going to be underscore post, and within this particular place, we have the index to be actually called as something like API underscore ID. Okay, let's make sure to type that correctly. This is the name that we just called it within the form down there. Look at it right here. Okay, so we can terminate this line. However, I know that some of you may comment that I did not actually kind of protect what I have in here. Okay, so let's just use something like HTML special Charles. This is basically what you should actually do on your own, but let me just try to just fulfill all righteousness and then try to kind of protect that with that particular function. So the next one is actually going to be the status, guys. So this is status. This is going to be status, and I want to change what is in here to the status right here. So I'm going to copy this and then paste that right here. So this is just basically the two things that we need from the form, right? So down here, we want to implement the toggling of the API keys, right? So to do that, I'm going to just do, let's put a comment here and say toggle API status. And to toggle that is really very simple. I'm going to just choose statement right here. If I create a statement, which is stmt is a variable, and we can actually set that to our PDO instance, which I'm going to just go ahead and just do a prepare statement right here. It's going to be prepare, and then within this prepare statement, what I basically want to do is to make an update. Okay, so whatever that is actually contained in this status system, I hit the button down there, which are just either enable or disable button. I want to go ahead and then make an update within my database. So to do that, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to just do update. Let's throw in our update query here, and I'm going to just basically update a table called the APIs, and then just set the following fields. So this is going to be status, and we'll set that to be equal to this right here, that question mark, and you can just say where, and in this case this is actually going to be the ID, where the ID is actually equal to that question mark right here. Of course, we're going to map them out down there. So in the next line there, we're going to just do if that statement that we have up there right here. I'm going to just do stmt, which is the statement we have up there. If it's actually execute this statement, this line of statement, if it executes, what do you want to do? So I'm going to just do execute. Remember that this is actually PDO, guys. So if that executes and we're able to we want to be able to this particular thing that right here, which is just like a placeholder, and we want to match the placeholder down here. And in our own case, it's actually status, right? So we're going to just do status. Let's make sure I type that correctly. This is going to be status. That's the first thing in there. I'm going to introduce a comma, and then the next one is actually going to be the ID. So this is going to be API underscore ID right there. And with that, we've actually matched those out right there, just like that. And we can throw in our if state, our curly brackets in here, and then we can maybe redirect. Let's redirect to the same page. So this is going to be location, and we're going to just do index.php, and let's terminate that line right there. I believe that should just basically work for us, guys. And all right, so what we want to do right now is to check if let's go and then test this out right now. So if we go to our index page right here, and first of all we want to check. So the first one right here, you know what I'm going to do to make this a little bit clear? I want to print out whatever API that could actually be. Okay, so to print that out, if we go down to our HTML part right here, I want to see a way that we can actually print that out. All right, so to print those out right now within our form section, I want to use a while loop to be able to do that. So the first thing I want to do, just write under this place where we'll have our h2 right here. I want to use a while loop right here. So this is going to be, I'm going to throw in my PHP tag in here, and I'm going to just do while, and within this place we're going to just do the variable up there, which is actually called the API, right? So this is actually called the API is equal to, so we are just basically creating a variable right here. This is just like if you are using something like for each loop. Okay, so we know that what is actually currently present here is actually this, but if we're able to fetch something from this, we want to go ahead and put that into this particular variable. So down here, by the time we'll be printing out the result, we'll be using this particular one down here. So that's just what that is. So I'm going to throw in my arrow right here and just do fetch object right here. So this is going to be fetch, and that is just that on that particular. Let's throw in our stuff right here and then close our PHP tag in here. And then the next way, the next place we want to basically close this is actually going to be just before the last what is it called, div right here. And just basically we just want to close out our while loop in here. So to do that, we're going to just do, this is going to be PHP, and we're going to just do end while. Just do end while like that, and we can close our PHP tag in here. So with that line, we've actually closed our while loop. Okay, and then within this particular place, we want to basically print out the first item down here. So I want to do that within this particular place. Then to do it, I want to put that in a p tag, and I'm going to just do within my p tag, I'm going to just do php, and I'm going to just basically echo. Now I'm going to use the API variable that we just created up there, and what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just go ahead and then this is I want to just basically put this in quotes, guys. So this is going to be in quotes, and if I have that way, we can just basically wrap everything that we could get in something like this particular curly bracket. Okay, so if we do API right there, and we want to throw in our square brackets in here, and then the next thing we want to basically grab onto is going to be what we have in the database. And I think that in the database we call that something like name, so I may have to just check that to be sure that that's actually called that's just basically called something like a name. So that's just that. Someone just throw in and just say something like status, just an ordinary text, and we can just do this right here, and we can just concatenate onto, this is going to be UC first, and it's just like a function that I want to use to be able to capitalize the first letter of whatever is actually coming out from the database. Okay, so this is just that, and I'm going to just go ahead and just do, of course it's still going to be API like that. right here, and the status now is still going to be the same thing. Okay, so this is going to be, and this is going to be status, right? And then we'll have that right there. So we can terminate this line, and then we can go ahead and then close our PHP tag and then close our P tag within that particular place. So with this line, we'll be able to like print out the name of the API we'll have in database, and then be able to print in front of it the status of that particular API that we just fetched from the database. And then for this line where we are just basically hiding our ID right here, we want to go ahead and then do some certain things, especially within this particular thing that is actually called the value attribute. So I want to throw in my PHP tag here, and I want to like print out the API ID right there. So that's just basically how we'll be able to know which API we're basically dealing with at a particular point in time. So this is going to be API, and we're going to go ahead and throw in our brackets in here, and within this place we're going to throw in our single bracket and then go ahead and just do ID, because that's just basically what we call that within our database, right? All right, so that looks like okay, so I think we need to terminate this right here. So this is going to be this way, and that's just basically what that is right now. So we will save the changes and then go back to this place, and I think we'll have an error where it says the syntax error on unexpected end of F5. So let's try to find out where that error is actually coming from. All right, so I think that issue is actually coming from this particular line right here. So we need to have a question mark here, and I believe that you guys must have seen that a while ago. So if we go back, we're gonna refresh, and we'll now see that we do have everything within this particular page showing up right now. So we have this one already enabled. So let's see if we can set that to, first of all, let's check the database. Was that actually, yeah, this is actually enabled, and the other one is disabled. So if we hit on disabled, and they say that that was disabled, so we can also do the same thing for this one. Let's hit on enabled. You see that it got enabled, so we can disable that to make sure that it gets disabled. Let's just set this one to enabled for now. And again, I want to like copy and paste our CSS to this right now. So to do that is very, very simple. All right, so I do have the CSS within my clipboard, and I want to just basically paste that down here. Okay, so I'm going to paste that, and typing CSS within this project is going to be something that will take quite a lot of our time. So the CSS started from here. You can pause the video to type them out. So you can, let me just scroll through. If you want to type that, that's fine. You see the thing. So this is how the CSS is actually looking. And moreover, you can also get this from a GitHub. Okay, you'll get all of these things from a GitHub. So let me refresh, and that should be looking like the original. So it looks like the original, right? That is just basically what we need right now. So let's move on. All right, so as far as of course, as far as our admin is actually concerned, we are done with that. So we are back to the UI of the website. I mean the user interface of the website, where users will basically land to be able to make use of our products. And I want to like start working on that right now. So if I close this out right now, and I want to be sure that I'm actually within this particular folder that is actually called a switch right now, and I want to create a file within this particular place. Okay, so the first one I want to create is basically going to be the index, right? So I want to be sure that, I don't know why it keeps creating that within that place, but I'm going to just do index.php, and what I want to do is just make sure that I drag that out. Okay, so that it will actually be outside. And with that, it means that if I refresh this page, we should be greeted with our index page. And what I want to do right now is, let me throw in our HTML boilerplate here, and I want to just basically change this to something like, let's say, welcome to our VTU services. Let's do that. Welcome our VTU services. So look at it right there. Welcome to our VTU services. And I want to just basically maybe copy that, and then within our body section right here, I want to create, first of all, I want to create a div that I'm actually going to give that a class. Let the class be actually set to something like container. So this is going to be container. And let's close that down here. So this is going to be div, and then within this place right here, I'm going to have something like h1. So this is going to be h1, and we can paste the text we have in our clipboard, and then we can go ahead and then close that right here by doing a h1 right here, and that is it on that line. So the next thing we want to do is to create a paragraph. So let the paragraph be something like a provide. Let's just say something like we provide. All right, so we do have this right there. It's a paragraph. We provide the best data and the airtime services for your needs. Click the button below to get started, and then we want to create a button down there, and the button is actually going to be very simple. All right, guys, so this is the button right there that they can actually click, and then to take them to either the page where we have actually integrated something like class tidings API or that of the ball file. But then that would be something like a switch. We'll write a script that is actually going to be redirecting whether depending on the API that is actually switched on. So for that reason, we're going to have a file that we're going to actually call the switch. So I'll put that file right here. This is going to be switch.php, and that's just basically the next thing that we basically want to start working on right now. So I want to copy this and then hit on index and then click on this, and then we can go ahead and then create that particular file. So let's open that up, and this is it, guys. So within this page right now, let's throw in our PHP tag right here, and we can close that tag, and then we can write a couple of scripts right here that is actually going to help in the redirection of that particular file. However, if you want to see the index page so far, you can, if you get in right here and then you refresh, you should be able to see this. Okay, so what I want to do right now is just to get the CSS and then put into that particular place, and then let's see how that is actually going to look. All right, guys, so I do have our CSS right now, and I want to basically paste it let me just call this something like styles.css, and I open that up. I want to paste everything that I have in the CSS within this particular page. So if you take a look at that, you see where we styled our body, and we have our container right here. This is the h1 that we just added, and then this is the link that we just created, and then this one is actually going to style the form that we'll add at a later time, guys. So this is the form style like that. The label, this one is styling the buttons, and we do have the button hover right here. So that's just basically that. So I'll save the changes. Just make sure that you pause the video and then type that out. It's really not too much, and I'm not going to just type them because it will take too much time to do that. So if we go to our index right now, we can link to that particular CSS by, if we do link, and we can do just for else, set that to be equal to, this is going to be right. So this is going to be style sheet. And then for the href, we want to go ahead and set that to the file we just created, which we actually call the styles.css. And we can close that down here. Then if we go back to this browser and then refresh, we should be able to see this come together this way. All right, so the next thing I want to do is to go to our switch and then start writing our script. All right, so to start writing the script for the switch right now, we first of all want to connect to our database connection, and to do that we can just we're going to just do include. This is going to be include, and to do that is really very simple. Let's say include, and we can go ahead and then I'm going to put that in a quotes right here. We just do include and / and this is actually found in the db.php file, and with that line we should be able to gain access to that particular file within that folder right here. Okay, so we'll gain access to the db file right here within this particular folder, and we're bringing that into the switch because we're going to be fetching a couple of things from the database right here. And the first thing we want to do is to prepare and execute a statement for the active API. And to do that, let me just put a comment here and say prepare. So this is it right here, prepare and then execute a statement to fetch active APIs. And if you want to do that, it's really very simple. Let's do that down here. So I'm going to just let's just create a variable. I'm going to just basically call the query, and let's set that to be equal to the following SQL. So this is going to be select or from, and basically we're selecting from APIs as a table, and we can just add a where clause right here, and then we'll just say status is actually going to be equal to, this is going to be equal to let's say that is actually going to be status, right? So that will just basically be equal to status. And next thing I want to do is really very simple. Sorry about this. We need to basically terminate this line. Let's terminate that. And then on the next line, what we want to do is to just go ahead and then prepare our statement. Okay, so to prepare the statement, we can just put that in a variable that we're going to just basically call stmt, and we can just set that to be equal to PDO because we'll have access to it up there, and we can just say something like prepare, and within the prepare statement, we're going to need the variable up there, which is actually called the query. So let's do query right here, and we have that right there. And after that, the next thing I want to do is to bind those statements. So to do that, I'm going to just do stmt right here. Let's make sure I type that correctly, stmt, and we're going to just go ahead and then just do bind value. Basically, we want to bind that to this that particular status that we have up there. So to do that, I'm going to just throw in my quote, and I'm going to just do status like that, and then I'm going to just do comma, and the next thing I'm going to do right now is just, if I put in my quotation right here, I want to go ahead and just say something like enabled. Let's make sure I type that correctly. That's just enabled. And then there is an algorithm that we can use to make this something like a string. And to do that, we can just do PDO. And I'm going to just do double colon. And then we'll do something like program underscore str to make that a string. All right. So we'll stringify that. So that's just basically what we need on that particular line to be able to bind the value and then be sure that we kind of stringify that. The next thing I want to do is to execute. So to do that, let's use our stmt statement, and we can go ahead and then pass our execute method onto that. So this is going to be execute just like that, and with that line of actually executed that statement up there. So the next thing I want to do right now is to fetch and then put all of those active APIs in a variable. So to fetch and put them, let's create a variable that we're going to just call active, and this is going to be APIs. That then we'll go ahead and then we're going to just do stmt right here and then set that to be equal to this particular object called the fetch all. And we can go ahead and then let's go ahead and then use associative arrays to be able to fetch this. And if we want to do that, we can just do PDO, and we can do double colon, and we can do fetch with capital letters and underscore assoc for associative array. You can do obj if you want to fetch that as object. So let's go ahead and terminate that line. The next thing we want to do is to just basically fetch the active API URLs. So to do that, first of all, I want to set a variable that I'm going to just basically set an empty array right here, and I'm going to just basically call that active API. Let's call this API what? This is going to be something like URLs. Okay, so this is going to be URLs, and we can go ahead and let's set that to be empty arrays right here. Okay, so set that to be empty arrays. Initially it has nothing, but we can down here, what I want to do down here is just fetch let me use for each to look through the array. So I'm going to just do, and what I basically want to fetch look through is actually going to be the APIs that is up here. So if I fetch through, if I go through that, I want to go ahead and then look through it. However, I want to, if I look through that, I want to go ahead and then be sure that I create a new variable right here, which I'm going to just call the API, and let's go ahead and throw in our curly brackets in here, and then we can go ahead and then create let's make use of active. I'm going to just copy this active API URL right there, and within that particular place I want to just basically go through the API, this particular variable right here. I want to just do API. I think we made a mistake right here. That should be something that should be a keyword called the as right here for me to be able to make use of this API that I'm just trying to make use of right here. So we need to have basically included this key term, okay, or keyword called the as, because this is just a for each loop. Okay, so instead of using this one, I'm going to just be using this. And to do that right now, I'm going to just make sure that I include this particular thing in here. Okay, so we do have that right there. So the next thing, the next index we want to basically fetch is going to be the name. So I'm going to just throw in my quotations and just fetch the name for what is it called? That of the APIs, and then we can go ahead and set that to be equal to, and I'm going to just do API right here, and this is going to be next thing I want to just basically fetch is going to actually be the API URL, which is basically what this indexes that I'm kind of including here are the things that we call them in database. Okay, so if you check the database, you see that the things that I'm actually basically adding right now, for instance, we have a name right here, and we'll have something like API URL right here. This is API key. Okay, so the one I want to work on right now, or that I'm working basically on right now, is actually going to be the API URL. So we're going to just do URL right here. And with that, we've really gotten the URL and then saved that into a variable right there. All right. So that's just that. So the next thing we want to do is to determine the redirect URL. So we're going to do that down here. So let's do determine. So let me set a variable right here, which I'm just basically going to call. This is going to be redirect, and this is going to be URL, and set that to empty strings. Initially, it's actually empty, but if we're able to grab something from up here, we should be able up here, right? If we have anything in this particular place, we should be able to determine where it should just basically go. And to do that, we should be able to use something like if statement to do that. So I'm going to just do if, and within this if statement right here, I'm going to just do if is set right here. And what are we just basically checking if it is set? Is actually this particular variable right here, which I just mentioned. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste that within this particular place. So I'm going to just say if is set this particular URL right here, and basically what I'm going to do right now, since it's an array, I'm going to just throw in my brackets in here, and I want to check for a specific API name, right? And to do that, let's go back to our table, and I want to copy this particular one right here. I want to copy it just as it is from the database, because I don't want to make any mistakes. So let's put it right here. So let's say for instance that this particular API URLs contains this particular word. We want to use the opportunity to know where we want to redirect them to. Okay, so that's just what that basically means, and that is just that. So on the next line in here, what we want to do right now is if we do redirect URL, if it is actually set to this particular thing right here, which is glad tidings. I don't know whether you guys actually kind of are getting this. So if we check the API URL and we're able to find glad tidings data where do we basically want to redirect them to. So I think what I just added here is actually incorrect. So this is going to be the page that we want to redirect them to. So in that case, it's going to be just something like let's call that glad tidings underscore page, which is a page we haven't actually created, but we should be able to do that because that's basically the page it will try to redirect to. So I'm going to just terminate that particular line in there, and that is just that. So we can throw an else if right here, and to do that, I'm just basically going to even copy this and try to paste it down here, and I want to introduce else right here. So it becomes else if. In this case now, we're going to just be working with Bofia sub. So I want to go to the database and then copy Bofia sub right here. So it's going to be copied, and then if we go back in here, I want to go back, get in here, and then paste that right here. And then within this particular place, we're basically going to be redirecting to the page that we will create for that, or the Bofia sub. So we could just call that something like Bofia sub underscore page, okay, .php right there. And that is just that on that line. So finally, we can just throw something like an else part in here. And let me just scroll down so that you guys can see everything. And within this place, we would still need this particular variable in here. I'm going to paste that. And if it is actually, this means that if we do not actually have anything within the redirect URL array, okay, this particular array, if we have nothing within that particular place, that means that you have not actually set the Bofia sub to be enabled, and you haven't actually set that of the glad tidings, okay. And I can see that I did not actually spell this glad tidings correctly. Let's make sure we type that, correct that, okay. So within that particular place, now where do we want to do? We want to redirect them to our error page. So to do that, we can put a page that we could just call no underscore dot php. So that's just basically the page we are going to basically redirect them to. All right. If we do not actually have glad tidings to be set, and then we do not have that of the Bofia sub to actually be set, so we are redirecting them to this particular page. Okay. So that's just what that means. So finally down here, we can outside here, we can go ahead and then do the actual redirecting. So I'm going to just do, so this is it. So down here we can say something like redirect to the determine the URL, and to actually do that or make that come live, I'm going to just do header, and within the header function right here, we can just do location and throw in our quotes, and we can go ahead and then pass in this particular variable right there. So I'm going to copy this, and let's go ahead and then throw that. I'm going to put my what is it called, our $sign here to make that a variable, and we do have that right now. So we can go ahead and exit down here. So with this, we should be able to like redirect people depending on whatever page that is actually selected or enabled, whatever API that is actually enabled within our coding environment, guys. So that's just what that is right now. So if we save the changes right here, and we want to make sure that we kind of include this particular file right here, I think we basically we do not even need to include that in any way. So the page is just like this, guys. So make sure that your phone is actually correct like this, okay. And we do not actually need to visit this page except if we ever have any errors as we try to visit those pages. So if I go to the browser right now and I want to refresh, and if I hit on submit right now, let's see the page, and I think we do have some errors here. Include failed to open stream, no such file or directory. So that means it's not like connecting to our database. That's the first thing we can actually find in here. And that just if we go back to our switch right here, what I'm going to do right now, let me just do include once, and I want to just make sure that this is actually in brackets. And what I'm trying to do, okay, I think it's actually capital, plural. It's actually called includes, not just include, but includes. So let's make that that way. And if we go back right here and then try to refresh the index, we need to go back in here first of all. Let's refresh here and then hit in here, and then it brings us back to that particular page. However, we do still have some error, and let's find out what the error is actually is, and let's find out what the error is actually. All right, so I think I figured out where the error is actually coming from. So if we check our source code, we're going to notice that we did not actually spell status right here. Okay, so it needs to actually be what we have up here. So let's make sure we type that correctly. Some of you may not even get that error because I know that you are more careful than me. All right, so we do have that right now, and I believe that that error should be gone by now. And you see that it redirects to the glad tidings page. Okay, so I want to go back to this page again. If I refresh and I hit on by now, takes me to glad tidings right here, and that is because if you check our database right here, you see that glad tidings data is actually enabled. And if we, let's see, what I'm going to do right now, I want to copy this and then go to a new tab, and let's try to go to the admin. Is that correct? So that just should be admin, and then open that up, and I want to disable the glad tidings. So let's disable this. So it's disabled right now, and then I want to enable that of the Bofia sub. So Bofia sub is enabled right now. In that case, it means that if I go to this page right here and I hit on buy now, it should be able to redirect me to Buffyasol. So if you take a look at the URL, it redirects me to Buffyasol. So that's just basically what that is, guys. So what I want to do right now is that I want to stop the video right here. If you do like the video, if you want me to continue the video, like showing you guys how you can integrate that of the glad tidings and then Buffyasol in another video, you can go ahead and then try to drop a comment in the comment section. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give like 21 days to maybe for this video to get something like a 100 likes. And if I'm able to get something like 100 likes on this video, that's going to actually prove the fact that you people are interested in seeing me integrate the Buffyasol and that of the glad tidings API within this particular series. Okay, so then I will return with the video. And if I do not actually get up to 100 likes on this video or 100 comments, then it means that you guys are actually not interested in the video. So I'm going to use that as a measure to see how much you guys like this particular video.